You're watching Still Crazy After All These beers, the best on the market today. Thank you.
Hey everyone, Gary Monterosa. Welcome to this week's edition of Still Crazy After All These Beers. I'm at the Tavern in Atlantic City with brewer Tim Kelly. Tim, how you doing?
Still outstanding, thanks.
All right, and this is where it happens. We're back in the brewery. I think a lot of people probably never done a brewery tour, and we're going to see how it's all done, how it's all made. So where are we right now? What are we looking at here with these big bags?
Well, as hopefully everyone knows, beer is actually a vegetable product. It's made from malted barley. This is where it starts. I get barley delivered in 25-kilogram bags from all over. Some imported malts from Germany, some from England, some from Canada and Pacific Northwest area. The malt comes pre-crushed, pre-milled. Unfortunately, we'd have to have like an explosion-proof room because of grain dust if I wanted to do that down here myself. So for a nominal fee, the purveyor grinds it for me. Depending on how I mixed different proportions of different types of grain together will determine the style of beer. It ends up getting conveyed up to a grist case. And when I'm ready to brew, I'll take it down to the mash tun. Sprayed with warm water to activate enzymes to convert starches into sugars. The process takes about an hour. From there, the liquid is drained off and put into the kettle, boiled. It's where hops are added for more flavor and preservatives. And from there it goes to the fermenter and yeast is added, where, you know, it does the thing we like best. And that takes about 2 weeks for ales, maybe about 6 for lagers, and then bring it back down to our serving tanks and goes right to the taps.
And of course, you make more ales than lagers, right?
Yeah.
For obvious reasons?
Yes. Again, it takes about a minimum of 6 weeks for a lager. So it takes, there's definitely a time investment. I try and keep one lager on tap. I have one fermenter I've pretty much set aside just to maintain a lager, but ales are pretty much the mainstay.
How many different kinds of grains are there here?
That's a good question.
Quite a few, though, right?
Yeah, just looking at a glance, I'd have to say at least 10. Darker beers like stouts, of course, we use a dark roasted malt. Lighter beers, we use lighter malts.
Tim, now we're up on this platform, and there's this big conical device over here. What is this again?
This is the grist case. The crushed grains put together for the recipe is called grist. This is basically where the grain is held till ready to do the brew process. Basically, it's just fed by gravity. There's a little slide will open up, grain will pour out, and goes through a hydrator. Again, that's where water is sprayed onto it to activate the enzymes to convert the starches to sugars, which the yeast will eat and make lovely alcohol.
Is all the equipment, all brewery equipment, pretty much the same? I know you can get it from different suppliers, but it all pretty much works the same, doesn't it?
Conceptually, it's all the same. And what you're looking at here is almost just a large homebrew system. Budweiser, does I don't know how many millions of barrels a year. It's all done the same way. They just get to push buttons. I actually have to dig grain out.
Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch probably spills more in one day than you're making in a couple of years, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to another part of the brewery. Now, Tim, how about this big metal vessel here? What's this kettle?
Yeah, this is that's the kettle. This is the next step in the process after the mash tun. The sweet liquid, which is called wort, is drained off the grains and it's put into the kettle, where it's boiled for approximately an hour. Boiling serves several purposes. It coagulates proteins out, sterilizes the beer so you don't get funkiness. And this is where hops are added, again, to lend bitterness and flavor. This kettle is about a 13-barrel kettle. That's about as large a batch as I can make. A barrel being about 31 gallons. So roughly a 300-gallon batch at a pop.
Well, a place like the Tavern, how many barrels during the course of a year might you be brewing? Any idea?
Last year we did 514, so that's roughly over 15,000 gallons of beer in a year.
And in terms of all the brew pubs in the country, and there's probably, about 1,000 or so, I would imagine, in the United States. Some brew more, some brew less, obviously. You have any idea where you stand in terms of volume?
We're on the small side. I think probably average, really. Most brew pubs, actually, like I said, this kettle will do 13 barrels. Most brew pubs will have 7-barrel kettles. The kettle's larger, but as far as the overall volume, we're probably right in the middle.
Now we're up at the next level, Tim. What's going on here? I know we have this enclosed room and a bunch of other kettles in here. Tell me where we are right now.
Yes, these are Ironically, this is called the cellar, even though we happen to be, 20 feet up.
20 feet up and we're in the cellar, okay?
Yes. This is where the beer yeast is added. to the wort to make it beer. The yeast converts the sugars into alcohol and carbon dioxide, and of course lends some of its own flavor characteristics.
Now, with all the flavors you're putting out, I really am curious about how you develop new flavors. For example, you have beers that you're always keeping on tap, Ton Light among others, but you come out occasionally with seasonals, correct?
Yes.
How do you come out with those seasonals? How do you develop the recipes? Is it something that you do on your own? Do you have to bounce it off upper level management or what?
I'm very fortunate. I have free reign. I pretty much can do whatever I want. But like if I'm going to come up with a new seasonal, just like cooking, I'll research other recipes. I'll look at 5 or 6 to get an idea of what generally is being done for a particular style. But then, that's kind of a bit of the science of it. And then, my creative juices kick in and I just do what I want to do.
Where'd you work prior to coming to the Ton?
I worked at Flying Fish Brewery in Cherry Hill.
Okay, now there's a whole different thing right there. We talked in last week's episode about the difference between a brewery and a brew pub. Brewery basically makes the beer, bottles it, sends it out to the distributor, then it goes to your favorite purveyor. But here at the Ton Tavern, you're basically sampling the beer, and if you like it, you're going to take a sample home with you in something called a growler. How different is it brewing for a full-scale brewer as opposed to a brew pub, or is it different?
It's very different. Again, I'm probably only brewing once a week here. At Production Brewery, it's doing 3 brews a day, every day. I like being busy. Bit of the downside, in a sense, is that it's the same beer you're making every day, again, which is kind of why I like the brew pub atmosphere, having the free range to make a wide range of styles and express my creativity.
I had a brewery recently compare what he does to a chef, in that a chef would get tired of doing the same beers or same recipes, same entrees over and over and over again. He said that's the reason why I like to kind of roll the dice a little bit and do the seasonals and kind of take chances. Would you go along with that?
Yes. As I said, even the IPA that I make, I haven't made the IPA the same twice in the year and a half that I've been here. Every recipe has been different just because I want to do it different every time. I want to have some fun with it. Some people may not like it. They come in one time and have an IPA they really like, and then they come back and it's different. It's not the same. Sorry, but that's my motto is I want to be consistently inconsistent. A Cascade hop, which probably most drinkers of American craft brews are familiar with. It's kind of a very grapefruity, but if I threw something like a lot of Chinook in there, you'll get a little more of a piney kind of flavor, or grassy. Or some other hops like Simcoe can give you some apricot flavors or tangerine.
Now, Tim, I got to tell you, I'm really freezing back here. It's cold back here. Okay, it's cold in the cold box. That's why they call it a cold box. What's going on back here?
After the beer is fermented up in the fermenters, when it's ready to be brought down from the cellar upstairs to be served, we run it through a filter, clean out some of the yeast, and it comes into the serving tanks, which hook directly to the taps at the bar. These are not temperature controlled as the fermenters were, so basically they're in the cold box. They are what the temperature of this cold box is. Whatever beer comes into here needs to be reported to both the state and the federal government for tax purposes.
I did see that coming in. It said tax room. I expect to see an accountant back here maybe pushing papers. I just didn't quite understand what that was all about. I've always called this a cold box.
I'd like to see a tax person in here, Lock the door on them.
So that's the whole process. And I'll tell you, like you said, for an ale, you're talking about how long?
2.5 weeks, and for a lager, minimum 6 weeks.
You're very creative. You're putting out some really cool flavors. And the Ton Tavern, again, is in Atlantic City, kind of attached to the Sheraton Hotel.
Yes,
and
the convention center and the train station. If you're in Philadelphia, take the AC line or right across the street.
Well, watching all this excitement about making beer has really built up a thirst in me. So you think maybe I can get a pint out there or what?
I think I'm going to get a cold beer to warm me up after being in here. So,
Tim, thanks for joining us. Tim Kelly, head brewer at the Ton Tavern. And that's it for this week's edition. It's still crazy after all these beers. We will see you next time.